choose transformational relationships over transactional relationships. So this is just a little bonus networking tip. When you look at building relationships with people, in your industry, in your business, build relationships with people you'd actually want to develop a relationship with in real life. So don't let those relationships just be transactional. Like, I just want to be in this mastermind so I can get XYZ. I just want to be friends with this person so I can get on their podcast. I just want to be friends with this person so that they can, give me a shout out about my program or be an affiliate partner. What would the world look like if people felt like they mattered? Welcome to the Lead with Love podcast, exploring what it means to lead with love in business and life. I'm your host, Jada Selner, and in this show, I'll share meaningful conversations to help you, the creative, the entrepreneur, the world changer, reach more people, go after your dreams, and serve your community with love. I appreciate you joining me. Now, let's get cozy and start today's episode. How do you cultivate deeper, stronger, more meaningful relationships in your life? I personally get asked this question a lot, especially when people choose the unconventional path of being a business owner and wearing many hats, not just in the way that they make a living, but also in their personal lives. And as founders, we can feel very isolated and lonely at times. And as humans, we have a deep desire to build a supportive community of like-minded people. I talk a lot about this, especially in my TEDx talk about the ABCs of love, that we want to feel acknowledged, we want to feel a sense of belonging, and we crave deep connection. So in this solo episode, I'm going to share how I personally build deeper friendships and why they matter so much. I believe our lives are impacted by who we choose to surround ourselves with, so that we can really be intentional and find people who support, encourage, and uplift us on this wild journey called life. And really being able to have an anchor to lean on, people to lean on, whether you're moving from childhood homes, illness, death, pregnancy, miscarriage, betrayal, heartbreak, legal stuff. Like, life can be intense and also so much unexpected work. And personally, I am so thankful for the depth in friendships that I have cultivated intentionally over the past several years. Now, I graduated high school a year early. I feel super proud of that. But I did not have an on-campus college experience. I have over 60 college units, but no college degree. So I'm a lifelong learner, but I just never actually got to the finish line. I was always able to get jobs that I really, really loved and was able to go in without an actual degree. And now that I've been running my own businesses for over 10 years, I just never had that dorm life experience where you have those friends from college. And so it wasn't until my early 30s when I became an entrepreneur that I dove deep into friendships, specifically female friendships, because I have been married for 14 years. So I met my husband when I was 20. I was married by 22 and, had my daughter right 24. So, those early adolescent years, I was already making commitments to my lifelong roommate, who is my husband. And so in that time, it just wasn't a way for me to even prioritize the female friendships. I was, already prioritizing my husband and my daughter and kind of making friends through her versus through my own interest. And I don't know if you're a mom, that you'll usually join moms groups and you become friends with people that you wouldn't typically be friends with if you weren't a mom, So it's very cool experience to create intentionality on the way that you friend, especially as you get older, because I am just noticing more and more, I'm in my mid 30s now, and I'm 36, so I'm like over the mid. But I just notice more and more how more complex that life gets. And so really, really creating space and time seems so much more limited as we get older, and it moves so much faster that we really have to prioritize connection in our lives. It's the one thing that we truly need to survive as humans in the world. And a little update, I've taken a little bit of a pause over the summer. It was an intentional pause from publishing new podcast episodes. So I hope that you've been able to binge listen and catch up so that we can start right where we are. But I actually had a very intense summer of emotion and loss and grief. In June of this year, I found out that my father passed away, and we had an estranged relationship. I hadn't had a relationship with him in 20 years from when my parents divorced and separated. And, I really had to build my independence, my resilience, I can do it myself. I can figure things out on my own since I was 16. My family dynamic shifted from what I knew from, birth to 16, where I had both my father and my mom in my life. And so during this season, I really took an intentional pause. It was inspired by my good friend, Elizabeth Dialto, and she took her summer off of her podcast, of publishing new episodes. Now, behind the scenes, I was still recording and having conversations with friends, but not publishing in the summer, allowing myself to not only grieve, but just to be present in life. And, we traveled. I spoke at TravelCon, sharing the stage with Cheryl Strayed, who I'm so in love with right now. She's the author of Wild and the columnist behind Dear Sugar. And I read Wild this summer because I took that intentional pause to just be. We also went to Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. and Kauai. And I really just took intentional pauses to be present with the people that I love the most. And so as you're thinking about your own life, if there are places where you can pause in some responsibilities and taking some things off your plate so that you can actually prioritize that connection in your life, that connection with yourself, that connection with your loved ones, with your family, with your friends. And so I just think it is so, so important to create that space. And then August 30th of this year, we actually had to put our sweet rescue pup, Clementine, down. She was over 13 years old, and she was our fur baby. I have always called her a puppy, but that was kind of the end of my summer. So there was just a lot of loss and letting go and creating that space to really fill my own cup out before I pour in to others. Right? To have that space where I have a full reserve, and also being able to heal behind the scenes. I feel like I'm someone who wears my heart on my sleeve, and I can't hide when there's something going on in my world. And so really being able to heal and process behind the scenes with my close inner circle of friends, coaches, therapists, healers, body workers, my husband, my family, just having deep, hard conversations about what it means to be human in this world. And so I really gave myself that space. And I also went to Mexico this summer with my girlfriends, which inspired this episode of being able to meet and connect with friends on a consistent basis. So you have people that are checking in on you when you might not check in on yourself. I have girlfriends that send me messages of just checking in on my strong friend and being able to see what's really going on in our worlds, because sometimes we don't pause to check in with ourselves, and it's helpful to have outside people who are like, hey, where's Jada? What happened? And I think that piece is just really, really important. So today I'm going to talk about where you start to find friends that you can go deep with. Because a lot of times if you don't have them, you start to feel like, okay. Like every group that I'm around, they already have their established friendships. So where do I find my people? And I've had this experience in my own life where it's like, oh, established cliques, all of that stuff, right? The second thing is, how do you make sure to stay connected with your friends when life gets so busy? You know, for me, I'm running a business, I'm coaching clients, we're homeschooling our daughter for middle school, you know, we have things to take care of at home, just wearing all those hats. And so how do we make sure that we stay connected when you are living a full life? And the third thing that we'll talk about is how to be a good friend that someone wants to spend time with, because there's sometimes little red flags that will push people away from wanting to deepen a relationship with you. And so being able to know those things ahead of time of just how we work as humans. And I just think it's an important conversation, because I do feel like I friend really well. And so I want to share some strategies that I actually use in building and cultivating those friendships in my life. So let's start with the first, where you start to find friends you can go deep with. And there are a couple of ways, right? So one way is thinking about interest groups. The second way is actually making invitations. So let's talk about the first one, interest groups. So places where I have met my own friends is in a mom's group. I was in meetup.com when I was in Los Angeles, where I had my daughter. And that's actually where I met my business partner and friend, Jen Hansard, where we ended up starting a parenting blog and then Simple Green Smoothies. We actually met at a mom's group through meetup.com. So that's a great place. I feel like meetup.com has been just a little nugget of breadcrumbs of inspiration for me to follow that has opened so many doors. And so when I moved to Kauai in 2008, my daughter was just 13 months old. I was so lonely on this island. You know, we moved, we left our jobs that we had been working at. I'd been working at this educational theater company, Kaiser Permanente, for over 5 years. My husband had been doing it for over 10 years. And we were leaving those deep friendships behind. We were moving to a new place, Kauai. We had actually never been to before we moved there. We actually thought we were moving to the Big Island, and then my parents moved to Kauai to get away from the VOG, which is volcanic smog. And so we ended up moving to Kauai instead because we wanted to be close to my mom, my bonus dad, my little brother, but I didn't have any friends to talk to. And I'm an ENFP, so I love being around small, intimate groups of people where I can go deep and have those deeper conversations. And so I made my friends. And I think this is part of one of my superpowers, is like, I know that I crave connection. And so I create opportunities instead of complaining that I don't have friends or I don't know where to find them. So I started a mom's group called Ohana Mamas. That group is still going in Kauai to this day. And I just created it so that I could find some like-minded mamas on the island to hang out with my daughter, to go to beach dates with. And I met some of my closest girlfriends through that process. I also ended up starting a business on the island inspired by Ohana Mamas. My husband and I started Little Sprouts Playhouse, which was a brick and mortar business, an early childhood play and learning center. And I already had built-in clientele because I had started this mom's group who were the perfect customers for the business. And I actually got the inspiration and the idea for the business by being around so many moms on the island. And so that's one way, is checking out meetup.com, looking for interest groups that way. And then also through my daughter's soccer team, I actually made clothes. We call them like, they're like our family twin. But one of the girls that was on my daughter's soccer team, everyone was like, Zoe and her, they look like so similar when you look from the back, and they were both really into playing defense on soccer. And we started spending time and hanging out with their parents on the soccer field for every game. And I was just like, we had so much in common. We both had just one kid, a daughter, same age. Our daughters are 2 days apart. So they're both Geminis in June. I'm a Gemini too. Woo woo. And I was just like, oh my goodness, they're young like like us. They live in Walnut Creek. They travel a lot. The mom was an entrepreneur like I was. And I was just like, this is so cool. And you just kind of have that like awkward thing of where you just kind of like, oh, they'll just sit next to you at the game. And I was like, I'm going to start inviting them to stuff. And in the beginning, I would invite them and they couldn't make stuff. And be like, hey, we're going to go see this movie. Do you want to join us? And I just stayed consistent with the invitation. And now they invite us to stuff. And now our daughters sleep over. We hang out a lot. And so that's another way. It's like, right, thinking about interest groups. Another interest group for me is business masterminds, right? Like I love being able to learn and grow and become a stronger business owner. So I've made a lot of my close friends through online courses and meeting people through the Facebook groups there. I've met my friends in joining, in-person masterminds, and I've even invited friends to be in masterminds where then we've been able to deepen our relationship. So think about some interests that you have, and I promise you that there is a group out there in the world that you can join to start meeting people. For my husband, he goes to a men's group and meeting with other like-minded people where he can start to find dads and people who are into personal growth and personal development. But we have to kind of either look for those groups that already exist that are welcoming and inviting and wanting to cultivate, new relationships, or that you can also create those interest groups yourself so that people can come, because everyone is looking for community. Everyone is looking for connection. And the reason that I even started my mom's group on Kauai was because I went to a mom's group that was on the island and it felt so cliquish. Like everyone already knew each other. I felt like the person on the outside, and I like couldn't get in, and they had their rhythms and their routines. And so I would come to the park play dates and I would just feel like I was on the outside. And so I knew that when I created my own mom's group that I would make it feel super inclusive. And even if only one person would show up to many of my meetups in the beginning, I would be so present with them. Or as the group got bigger, I just made sure that everyone felt that sense of belonging and connection. So the second way to find friends that you can go deep with is invite them. So be the first to reach out and reach out often. And what's worked best for me is consistent invitations and not taking things personally when someone says they can't make it. So I lean into the discomfort of rejection, the awkward beginnings of friendship, where even when you meet out, I'll go out to like a restaurant with a friend and it kind of feels like you keep talking about this. It's just so new, but it's the consistency over time. But you want to make sure that you're inviting people and inviting them often, and you don't need to be dramatic and cut people off your friend list just because their schedule doesn't line up with yours on the first invite. It takes time to build trust. So you'll need to put out a lot of invites to really create the compound effect of time and trust. And just so you know, this is true in business too, that it takes time to build trust, and we have to keep putting the invitations out there, and the momentum will eventually build up. So if you feel you really connected someone, lean into the awkward beginnings of getting to know them. It will take multiple hangouts too when you hang out with them, and several months, and just being persistent to deepen those friendships over time. But I promise that there will be fruit on the other side of those awkward invitations and the rejection. So those are the two things when you start to find friends you can go deep with: interest groups, whether you join one or create one, and putting out invitations. As soon as you feel like a little click with someone, just make that awkward invitation and make it happen. So let's talk about the second. Like, how do you make sure that you stay connected with your friends when life gets super busy? And life is busy, right? And I love using the word that life is full instead of busy, because they're all things that we are choosing to have in our lives. And so just honoring and acknowledging the fullness of life. So a couple of pieces that I would say to help you make sure that you stay connected with your friends when life gets busy is consistency, combo moments, connection, and collaboration. So let me expand on this. With consistency, I love scheduling recurring events on my calendar. So this is something that you can do. So every quarter, We call it our squad trip. Squad because there's 4 of us. Quad, get it? Okay, squad. So every quarter we meet, my friend Jennifer Kem, Nikki Elledge Brown, and Nicole Walters. We meet every quarter for a girls trip. And a lot of people ask, like, well, how did you find each other? And the answer was reaching out and showing up. I remember several years ago, like 2013, I reached out to Nikki via a Facebook message. And then we ended up joining a little virtual mastermind together. Jen and I met in a in-person mastermind. I think there was like 14 of us that were business leaders. And I met her for the first time in Sausalito, California. She lived in Hawaii at that time. And now I have manifested her and her family to live 3 miles away from me. And actually in my office where I record my podcast is actually, I rent from her space now. It was previously one of my best friend, Michelle Long, who at the Practice for Women has now become the Her Q, which is a workspace for women and people who support women's missions and business to come work and collaborate. And so Jen actually invited Nicole and I to a vacation that I actually couldn't make on the Big Island. So I didn't know Nicole at the time, but I hopped on the next trip in a heartbeat. And so now every few months we meet up with each other and we do life together. And even though we're in different states and time zones, we're across Atlanta, Houston, San Francisco Bay Area, we still book this on our calendar. And each trip that we meet, I mean, we've met in Cancun. Oh gosh, I'm almost spacing now. Sedona, Arizona. We have a trip coming up in Miami. We've done Sausalito. So we just keep finding, we try to do like an out of country trip in the year, and it's just been just an amazing thing to look forward to, where we can just unravel talking about business, about life, about our family. We cry, we laugh so hard, but every trip, by that last evening, like our last dinner together, we start looking at our calendars for dates for the next trip. And like, we all speak on stages around the world. We have families, we have businesses that we run. So we really make it a priority and just find a sweet spot of days that we can come together. And then I love it because Nicole always books her flight like that night so that we can't opt out of the trip. So no one is like, oh, I can't make it. So I love it. I also have a mastermind where I meet with a group of women every month in person locally. There's something so powerful about having people that actually live where you live and you don't have to hop on a plane to meet them. So I've had Amy Ehlers, Sarah Jenks, Michelle Long, Julie Santiago, and now we have Nisha Moodley. And we've kind of rotated and shifted our groups as people either move out of state, but we always keep the common goal of that we are mamas or mamas to be, so that we can really integrate our conversations. And how both of these groups, how we meet in between our in-person touch points, is we use Voxer. I just love that app so much because I'm a verbal processor, and it's a great way to just walkie-talkie your friends on demand, and then you listen to the conversations when you have time. So you don't have to schedule like a set time to actually have more of those conversations in between the in-person meetings. And I will say, it's not easy to get calendars synced. So just trying to get as many dates on the calendar and creating that consistency is so, so helpful. And really, when you get something on the calendar and make your friendships a priority, then it's easier to say no to other things because you already have it in the calendar. Another thing, so I talked about consistency and then combo moments. So I invite people to things that I'm already doing in my life. So whether they can come or not come, I'm still going to do it. This is a great way to start to build friendships with people, is finding ways that you can pull them into something that you're already doing. So blending your social connection time with other things that are good for you or that make you happy. Like my husband and I love to go to concerts and listen to live music. And so we'll invite friends. Like we're going to see Tom York, the lead singer of Radiohead. And in a couple of months. We bought tickets to see Smokey Robinson and also the Black Keys. And we have a couple of friends that are going to some of those concerts with us. We also have gone to see Hamilton with our friends, actually the friends that we made through our daughter's soccer team. I love doing walk and talks or hikes with people. So one of my past clients and friends, Kathleen Hart, we actually will hike early in the morning, like 6:30 in the morning, and then we'll head to the coffee shop, and there's no metered parking. Like, you don't have to pay for parking until 10 a.m. So then we co-work after at a coffee shop. And so we have those combo moments of, okay, like we want to move our bodies. We also want to get work done. I also go to Hipline, my dance class, which I love so much. It's an all women's dance studio. And when I go at night, they have like the disco lights on. It's basically like going to a club with your best girlfriends dancing to Beyonce. I love it so much. And I have my girlfriend, Jennifer Covington, who we get our set consistent times on the calendars. We know which teachers we love. And there's just the combo, right, of us being able to dance, move our bodies, and also catch up and seeing what's going on in our lives. And when I'm on my way to my dance class, I also call people on the phone and driving to Oakland. So it's just a great way to think of that. Another way is also if you go to business conferences or any learning type events, inviting your friends, your girlfriends that you want to catch up with to go there, because then it's a business write-off and it's a vacation and you get to catch up with your people, which is so nice. Another way is also if you ever buy like a course or you go to a workshop, that you can have a friend pay for the course and the workshop too, and then you become accountability partners and also get to deepen your friendship that way. So being able to combo those things. I've had an accountability partner through B school. I've gone to, a writing workshop and inviting my girlfriends to. So just finding ways, you always got to eat. So lunch, dinner, those are great ways. Just thinking of combo moments of, I'm already doing this, and like invite someone to join you. There's actually a book. I have not personally read it, but I've heard it recommended many times. I think it's Never Eat Alone, something like that. I'll link to it in the show notes if you go to jadaselner.com/podcast, and I'll make sure to include the link to that book. But I believe it's Never Eat Alone. The third piece, we talked about consistency, combo moments, and then connection. And like I already mentioned, is finding ways that you can connect in between the times that you'll actually meet. So is that a text message? Is it Voxer? Just thinking about ways that you can stay connected between spending time with people, even if it's just sharing like a funny video. I'm always sharing like Key and Peele videos to people, or an article that inspires you that would inspire someone else. So just having these little connection touch points that remind someone of your friendship to make sure that you get something on your calendar as well. And then the last piece in how to, really stay connected with your friends when life gets so busy is collaborations. So finding ways that you can support people that you love versus competing with them. So looking at ways of really supporting people in your world. Could you collaborate on a live event with someone? Are there opportunities for you to spend more time by creating some type of project together? And I have done this so many times with my girlfriends. It's so much fun to co-lead events and being able to get that win-win-win of like, we're making money, we're putting a project out in the world to help other people and bring them together, and we're also able to collaborate. And connection is a high value of mine, and collaboration is another high value of mine. I just love playing with people. So we talked about where to start to find friends you can go deep with, how to make sure you stay connected with your friends when life gets busy. And the last piece that I want to talk about is how to be a good friend that someone wants to spend time with. So one piece is you got to let people in and be vulnerable. So being able to share your highlight reel, REAL, not just the highlight reel, REEL. You can save that for the gram, although you can share your vulnerable moments on social media as well. But I think there's something really powerful in being able to share your vulnerability behind the scenes and having that close inner circle of people to lean on during this intense summer of emotions and grief and healing and therapy. For me, I've had friends to lean on that I could share what was going on in real time before I share it with the whole world. And I notice that there are friends that I have in my life that I can almost feel this sense of like they're hiding something or they're not showing their whole selves to me, that there is always this lingering like disconnect of like, I feel like I don't know this person. And so if you can really allow yourself to be vulnerable and let people in when things are not easy, and knowing that you are not a burden to share things that are not as bright and happy. And I know that's a common thing, especially among a lot of my friends. It's like, you want to be the cheerleader, the encourager, the supporter. You want to like be there for people. And so you don't want to take people down with like a dark moment. But I have my Eeyore moments, and I literally will like text Eeyore gifs of like Eeyore hopping around being sad to my friends, just letting them know I'm having an Eeyore moment right now. Or, you know, as my friend Amy Ehlers talks about the inner mean girl, like I'm having an inner mean girl attack right now. Like I feel sensitive. I feel overwhelmed. I feel confused. I feel like I'm not doing something right. Just being able to bring that vulnerability, and some great places to be real and vulnerable is where you can talk about money, talk about your inner thoughts, talking about any shame that you might be trying to hide in secrecy, like bringing that out into the light, talking about marriage, relationships, parenting. And you will have a vulnerability hangover when you share these pieces, but you will also feel so safe, held, and supported during those times when just stuff feels really, really dark. So I would encourage you to let people in beyond just the surface when you are developing friendships. And to me, I really value vulnerability and transparency. I think it really allows us to go deeper and allow it to be two-sided, because there are times where you feel like you're sharing all your stuff and then the other person doesn't, and you're like, hey, wait. I think that's where the vulnerability hangover comes. So when someone shares something vulnerable with you, being able to reciprocate that so they know that they're not alone in those feelings. Another way to be a good friend that someone wants to spend time with is show up when it counts. Show up in those big and small moments. And I know that I have had the gift of friendships. I remember when I spoke at World Domination Summit, and I'll link to that episode where I share that keynote on the podcast. But I just remember my friends, Amy Groom and Michelle Long, like they flew out to see me speak at World Domination Summit. It was my first keynote that I ever did in front of 3,000 people. Before that, I had only been on panels, sharing the stage with other people. This was like my coming out speaking moment. And it just felt so special. My business partner, Jen Hansard, flew out as well. My husband was there. He was so nervous because he didn't see me practicing and rehearsing for my talk. So he was just like, it's just how I do prepare for my talks. I don't know. I let it like simmer in my head. I practice a little bit in the shower, but it's like not till I get really close to the date do I start speaking my talk out loud. So really, showing up when it counts and having people come to those special moments. And if you ever are wondering like if you should attend something, or maybe you're not as close to someone at that time and you're on the fence, show up anyways. I have noticed that I have been able to deepen connections and friendships from that place. I remember my friend Scott Densmore had passed away, and my friend, his wife, Chelsea Densmore, had put on a memorial. It was also the same day as when my team retreat, where my entire team was flying out. And I was just like, what do I do? Do I go to this? I haven't been to funerals or memorial services. Like I haven't had a lot of loss in my life. And so I just wasn't sure how that worked. And I leaned in and I decided to show up when it counted, to be there. And then I just, headed to my team retreat a little bit later than everyone else. And so being able to show up during those moments that people remember when someone showed up for that. I also remember remember, when my father passed away, Jen Kim, she sent a massage therapist to my house. And I just, in a moment of when I was just feeling so much loss and shock and in my body and all of those things. And it just felt like such a caring moment of I can send this to you in this moment and send you some body work to ground and take care of you. And another example, I'll link to this episode because Nicole Walters talks about this in her podcast, where our friend Nikki ordered room service to be delivered to Nicole in the Dominican Republic when she got food poisoning. Or was it, actually might have been Colombia. I can't remember if it was Dominican Republic or Colombia. Listen to that episode. It's really good because she talks about friendship as well. But Nikki knows a little Espanol and was able to order crackers and, some bubbly soda for her and some medicine. And so I think that stuff is just so special, of showing up when it counts in the big and the small moments, and just thinking about your people, even if it's sending flowers or a card or celebrating those small wins, just being able to be there for people and going above and beyond. And I love what Brene Brown says is trust is built in small moments. And so being able to not just be there for the big stuff, but also the small stuff too. And another thing that I would say to be a good friend that someone wants to spend time with is give people the reset pass. Don't guilt trip people when someone is in a busy season of their life. I know that if someone when I'm just whether it's I'm at capacity because I have a lot of emotional stuff going on, or logistical, a lot of travel, or I'm launching, or whatever that is, there's just moments where life is really full and we have to give people space to just be in their world and in their rhythms, and just, you can check on them, but without the guilt of hey, haven't heard from you in a while. There's something that when that happens, then you're almost, the person on the other end is almost feeling guilt in the friendship, and they're feeling bad, but they also don't have the capacity at that time. So really honoring people's capacity of seasons of life when they're busy, and letting people know hey, totally know this is a busy season in your life, just checking in, love you, no need to respond. Just giving people that pass, I think, is really helpful. And inside the Voxer messages that I have with a couple of friends, we give people the reset pass. Just say reset. If you went off the grid and traveled with your family and you don't want to catch up with all the audio messages that we've been sharing, just type in reset, and that lets us know that you aren't playing catch up, and you don't have to play catch up, and you're starting right here in this moment. So being able to not guilt trip people when they can't fully show up in that time, I feel like I've built the deepest friendships with people. And I say it consistently, no worries, I totally know you're busy. Just letting people know, letting them off the hook if they're in a busy season in their life, and they're going to soften and feel like they have more space for you, because you're not going to make them feel guilty. We already feel mom guilt from not showing up in other ways. And it's we don't need our friends and our inner circle to make us feel bad about how we're showing up in our lives too. So those are the things that I would say really help to be a good friend that someone wants to spend time with, and not feel that extra pressure. So the vulnerability, showing up when it counts, and being able to give people a reset pass when they're at capacity. So we talked about, being able to figure out where to find where your friends you can go deep with, and how to stay connected when your life gets busy, and then how to be a good friend that someone wants to spend time with. And I want to give you a little bonus, is to choose transformational relationships over transactional relationships. So this is just a little bonus networking tip. When you look at building relationships with people, in your industry, in your business, build relationships with people you'd actually want to develop a relationship with in real life. So don't let those relationships just be transactional. Like, I just want to be in this mastermind so I can get XYZ. I just want to be friends with this person so I can get on their podcast. I just want to be friends with this person so that they can, give me a shout out about my program or be an affiliate partner. I just think that the way that has worked really well for me in building relationships with people in my industry is like, I want to be friends with this person in real life too. I can give an example of my friend and mentor, Jonathan Fields. I just love what he stands for. I love the way that he does business and family and life. And, I've paid to be in his events and masterminds. And then he's hired me to coach and support in his group programs. And then I just have dinner at his house or dinner with his wife and his daughter, and just someone that I actually want to spend time with and can still collaborate with and can still support and learn from. That's the type of friendships that you want to build, even in your business world. Would you be friends with them even if they didn't have a certain level of influence or access in your industry? And that you can give and show up without expectation of receiving anything in return, and being able to build and add value from that place is just so, so powerful. So my invitation for you is to prioritize connection in your life. Make space for friends. So let's take imperfect action. Here's my invitation for you. I want you to think of someone who might be an acquaintance or a friend, but they're kind of like on the outer circle of your life, like you haven't gone deep with, you haven't been super vulnerable with yet. And I want you to invite them to hang out. Send them a quick text, an audio message, an email. If you can think of something that you are already doing, so then you already have the date set, you take the lead and invite them and offer some dates and times to meet up. And I just want to remind you, don't stop inviting them to something until your calendars finally sync up. So it may take a few weeks. It also may take a few months until you get something on the calendar, but do not give up, because if there's a little spark and you feel that you could go deep with this person, really open up that space to invite them in and invite them to something, and then invite them again and again and again. But I would love to know, after you listen to this episode and you send that text message or that quick invite, let me know that you did it. You can actually comment over at Jada Selner on Instagram or on Facebook, but I mostly hang out on Instagram. I'd love to know when you make that invite and then when that date gets set up too. And of course, you can find full show notes over at jadaselner.com/166. And I am just sending you so much love, and I am holding the vision and the intention that you will build deeper, more real relationships in your life. And so I invite you to invite that friend to go a little bit deeper with you. Thank you so much for your heart and attention and listening to Lead with Love. You can always get the links and resources mentioned in each episode over at leadwithlovepodcast.com so that you can build a sustainable business and live a creative life on your terms. If this message, Leading with Love, resonates with you and you want to take a stand for remembering that there are humans with beating hearts behind the numbers, I would love for you to subscribe so you never miss an episode and leave an honest review. It would mean the world to me, and it also helps more people spread more love in the world, which we really, really need. I also love hearing from you. So as you're listening, take a screenshot, share your favorite takeaway, and tag me on Instagram and Facebook at Jada Selner. I really appreciate you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.